What's up, guys? Are you ready? It's identity time! We are finally at the halfway point, more or less. This is phase 3 identity of how to build your brand. Today we're going to go over the full brand identity system that you need to put makeup on the pig, essentially. So it's going to be a long one. I hope you have your water, coffee, wine, beverage of your choice, and a very comfortable seat because we are going to get into how to create the face of your brand today. So buckle up, Buttercup. This is phase 3 identity. Today's task is to build your brand identity system. This is inclusive of brand name, tone of voice, all the way down to graphics and photo direction. We're going to be going through each one of these elements in a very detailed way. We all have our strengths and we all have our weaknesses. We literally all have them. So during this process, because it is such a creative exercise across so many different elements of our brand, feel free to outsource the things that you're not the best at. You really want to lean into your strengths here and tap into friends who have strengths that are your weaknesses. Just so you know, if you don't have any creatives in your corner, we have an amazing creative Rolodex of vetted freelancers that is at your liberty when you buy this course. If you would like to be considered for this list, send me your portfolio and all of your details and we'll get you sorted for that. Everyone who gets a piece of this Brand Builds course will get access to that vetted Rolodex. So we have tools very much here for you. Without further ado, we're gonna get started with our brand's name. So your brand name is the fastest way for you to get known in the marketplace. It creates stickiness with consumers and it really carves out where in the market you're going to sit because different names evoke different feelings and different feelings stand for different brands' offerings. So this is a great place to start. Our job as the brand team is to create the most impactful and memorable experiences for our consumers who are coming into contact with our brand. So we want to ensure that these elements, of which there are 7, are included when it comes to creating a great brand name. We have memorability, evocativeness, linguistic appeal, relevance, flexibility, future-proofing, and availability. So taking it from the top, memorability. We need this to be simple, catchy, and unique. Having these 3 elements really creates that stickiness that I spoke about within the marketplace of people to remember who the hell you are. Evocativeness. This is something that is a little bit of a trigger point, a positive one. We want it to trigger emotion and target some sort of visual imagery or some sort of positive association that someone hearing our branding for the first time has. So this should evoke some sort of emotional response that triggers a visual that is positive so someone can more easily remember the name of your brand. You know, if I meet a girl named Annie and I'm trying to remember her name, maybe I'll think of Annie the Orphan. And maybe she was wearing red or something like that. All of these different visuals come to mind to help us remember things. So lean into human psychology and the way that our brains work to your advantage when it comes to making your brand name. That lathers in pretty nicely to linguistic appeal. It should be easy to pronounce and it should have some sort of positive phonetics attached to it. This creates easy recall for people to remember your brand name and allows for universal adoption. Relevance. We need alignment with your brand identity. That's huge. It should appeal to your target audience and it should have cultural appropriateness. These are things that really speak to who your brand is as like an entity and it really reflects the values and core offering of your brand. So this really ties into the work that you did in phase 1 research and phase 2 strategy. And I'm gonna pause. If you haven't watched those videos, pause me right now. I'm not going anywhere. Go watch those videos. Understand that each one of those phases comes before identity for a reason. That reason is that we get you the perfect white space opportunity for you to activate on and create a brand strategy spine as to how you're going to win in the market. You can create the most beautiful, sexiest brand out there, but if you don't have those pillars, if you don't have the person who you're speaking to, the problem that you're solving, the viable market, and how you're going to strategically tackle that to win, your brand literally means nothing. So we're going to avoid that by having you go back, watch those videos, grab the workbooks, do the work yourself, circle back, and we'll be right here. Okay, babe. For the folks who've done that work, love ya. Relevance is all about tying in all of those elements that we've already done to ensure that we are creating the greatest, strongest brand name possible to embody all of that learning that we've already done in those 2 phases. Flexibility. We need scalability and versatility. Having these elements means you create a longer runway for your brand to keep growing. Future-proofing. We need this to be timeless and we need it to be adaptable. These things really ebb and flow with the flexibility and relevance of your brand. We want to keep this wabi-sabi. We want to keep you agile in the marketplace and to adapt, adjust, and improvise as needed. So your name should give your brand the gift of longevity, just like with flexibility. And availability. Obviously, we don't want to take someone else's name because you're too unique for that. So look back at your due diligence that you did in phase 1 and 2 and ensure that your name is unique to you. So if you are starting from scratch, an insightful tip here is to take out a virtual or physical sheet of paper and brain dump. Any single word that comes to mind when you think about your brand, your target audience, the problem that you're solving, your solution, how you're going to move and shape to achieve that, brain dump. 9 times out of 10, you'll start kind of piecing words together and names will start naturally getting put on paper. Sometimes it's even the very first name that you think of as you do that exercise. Other times you might need to workshop a little bit, talk with friends, see what words come to mind for them when you share the problem that you're solving and how you're going about solving it. They might just say a word that makes a name click. Here are some really cute examples. Obviously we love QP, and we're going to use our course example of Rec Center to see how it fits the bill based on the other variations that I was first considering. And this is going to be a beautiful example of why stress testing your name is so important. So our first option was Rec Center. The pros is that it's short and sweet, it's referential to a center of leisure and activity, and it has a unique word presentation. You know, it's all lowercase, we have a period replacing the space, and recreation is abbreviated to rec. The cons is that it's not sports specific. And this feels a little bit like Michael Scott, where like I don't have a weakness, because this can technically be a pro. This allows for a little bit more range and versatility and room to flex as we grow because we aren't identified as a sport-specific company. Good Sport, on the other hand, our second choice, did illustrate that it is a sports company. It does set the tone of our company's spirit of being like good, a word that is positively associated with like happiness and like growth and all of these key attributes, and it's an expression that people know. On the downside, because people know it, it's a little bit generic, which doesn't underscore the uniqueness that we are bringing to the market. It doesn't communicate our core offering of being very intentionally focused on building community, and it does lock us into that sport focus as a business. Last but not least is the prime example as to why you should run your names by other people, because you might see it one way and someone will see it another way, and it'll just reflect back to you your gut instinct at the end of the day. So it was Comrade. I know. Emphatic pause. But the pros that I saw with this is that it emphasized strong bonds amongst people, and it kind of alluded to this togetherness. And it's one word, which makes it really easy to remember. The cons are obvious, is that it has a military undertone to it, and we're living in a very politically charged environment right now, so staying away from anything politically relevant is probably a good thing, especially when it comes to a recreational sports company. So that's an obvious con, and it also doesn't communicate our offering in any way, shape, or form. So let's go ahead and see how our chosen name of Rec Center fits our above criteria. It's memorable in that it's 2 words smushed into one, it alludes to something we know and are familiar with, and there are no other recreational club or communities that consider itself a recreation center. It's evocative because it has nostalgia around days at daycare or going to the YMCA or some other leisure center. And even if someone has never been to one of those establishments, they've been depicted in TV and cinema for a long time now. So we all have some sort of a visual identity surrounding the concept of a recreation center. Linguistically, it's appealing because it's easy to say, it rolls naturally off the tongue, and it's relevant because we are the home of recreation, so that does align with our brand identity. Our target audience is someone who likes things that are visually appealing, and because we have an abbreviation with the replacement of a space with a period, all lowercase, this makes it visually appealing and also culturally appropriate because it kind of fits within this grammar and capitalization and punctuation trend that we're seeing of like a more casual representation of highly established things like businesses and brand names. It's flexible because it's not sport specific, and it gives us the flexibility to evolve and scale. And it's not product or service specific either, so it gives us that versatility to kind of evolve with time. Future-proof, it's timeless because recreation centers have been around since the 1900s, so they're not going anywhere. And then adaptability, members clubs are on the rise, and they have always been around very similarly to a recreation center, which is some sort of a membership club to a degree. So it allows us to expand the definition of what a recreation center is. And it was available, so we love that as well. No direct competition with that name. All right, moving on to our tone of voice. Now that we have this brand name, how does that brand talk and interact? And this goes as far as our language, how do we verbally communicate, and in a written capacity as well. But pictures are worth 1,000 words. So it really sets the tone of how we act. And the reason why it does that is because we use adjectives to assign our tone of voice for our brand. So we're going to use things like ambitious or stoic or raw or approachable to describe what your brand's vibe is. Once you identify 4 tone of voice adjectives, we're going to create a list of do's and don'ts for each. All of this information is going to get packaged up next week in a brand guidelines deck. We are essentially building something that we can hand over to a stranger and have confidence that if they abide by the rules in that document, they're going to do justice to our brands. So we want to be very descriptive in what they should do and what they shouldn't do. Let's look at Rec Center. Our adjectives are inclusive, playful, approachable, and colloquial. Starting with inclusive, we speak to consumers as diverse people from all walks of life who are just looking to find like-minded creative peers to play games with. So our do's is that we use collective pronouns like we, ours, and us, and we celebrate the diversity of our community by using abbreviations like LGBTQ+, BIPOC, and AAPI to highlight all of the wonderful folks in our community. But what we don't do is use individual pronouns like I, me, and mine. That's individualistically focused. We are communally focused, and we don't misuse or excessively use group identifiers because we don't want people to feel like they are a segment within a greater whole. It's just a greater whole comprised of individual parts. Our next word is playful. Our lighthearted spirit creates a conversational tone with members, and so we want to have an air of lightness that comes through. So we do use words like stellar, hell yeah, sheesh, and sick. But we don't use too many energetic words because we don't want to seem too intense or highly energetic, just the right amount. When it comes to being approachable, we're your favorite friend to hit up and play with. So we want it to be as easy as possible for folks to want to join in and feel like they are accepted and welcomed. So what we do is speak to consumers and members like you'd speak to a new friend. Hey, absolutely, would love to play with you. What we don't do is be too casual and say things like yo dog, sup bee, or homie nah. Basically, bad examples of things that you would say to a really close friend. We want to keep it slightly professional and feel like an authority figure. But we're an authority figure who's still involved and in the culture. So we are colloquial. We use trending language that is within our zeitgeist to show that we're still dialed in. Again, nothing to any extreme, but we do definitely adopt obviously non-offensive terms and slangs and expressions that relate to a specific message that we are communicating. And we don't, of course, use offensive or harmful language, but also exaggerate language to make it feel unprofessional. So adding a lot of I's in, doing like killa or my gird, things that feel a little too silly. Again, it's a fine line between professionalism and too casual, and we are setting that line in the sand. Here are some examples of some tones of voice from different brands that come through. We have this Pamela Anderson ad of Give Fur the Cold Shoulder from PETA, this Game Boy Pocket ad that says now in 6 tasty colors. It's these small things that go a really long way. This lathers up to our tagline. So this is the takeaway phrase that is a more creative interpretation of your value proposition, which is way more literal and descriptive and verbose. Your tagline should be something creative and catchy. So let's see the elements of a great tagline. It should be simple, creative, resonate emotionally, have that brand alignment, communicate your value proposition, and be timeless. It should be concise and easy to understand. That will allow your brand to just have an immediate get factor to it. Even if it's not literal and it's something that's a little bit more conceptual, that's still very much a win because it gets people to think about a phrase that sticks in their mind. So you can be more conceptual and creative, but think about things like how can you make it catchy or maybe have some sort of a rhythm to it? What is a distinct characteristic that you can inject into your tagline to create that extra level of stickiness? And we know that the best way to create memorability is to have an emotional resonance. So evoking emotion and having a relatability element of your tagline will allow people to just remember it with a bit more ease and fondness. We want to create a positive association between your brand and as many consumers as possible. Looking deeper, brand alignment. This obviously should reflect your brand's identity and have a consistent tone. So it should match your overall brand's vibe. It shouldn't feel totally out of left field. And that's why we did our tone of voice exercise before this. We wanted to feel cohesive. Value proposition. It should communicate a benefit and differentiates your brand. Pretty obvious here. This tagline is for your brand and your brand only. So let's make it about you. And it should be timeless. There should have an enduring appeal about it. Your tagline lives hand in hand with your brand's name, especially when it comes to your logo, which will be up next. So let's make sure that it can stand the test of time. Nothing too trendy, nothing colloquial, nothing that people 5 years from now won't get. Make it simple, make your life simple. Let's win, okay? Before we get into logo, let's look at how Rec Center's tagline, the home of recreational sports, ticks the boxes. We have simplicity, it's a single sentence, it clearly communicates we're a hub for non-serious activity, it's creative in that the cadence of words makes it easy to remember, it sets us apart by owning recreational sports through play. The words home, recreational, and sports all strike an emotional chord within the person who hears it, making it relatable. There's brand alignment because we are the home of recreational sport activities and it matches our brand's tone by being inclusive with home and playful with sports. For our value proposition, it communicates our benefit by sharing that we're a space for community and activity, both of which now improves the quality of their life, and it differentiates our brand by showing that we have more to offer than just one activity, which is common in the marketplace right now. Last but not least, home, recreational, and sports are all timeless societal cornerstones, so there's a timeless air to it as well. Cute little graphic of how that kind of lathers up. And we're going to go into photo direction at the very end, but you can see here a prime example of how these things work together. I lied, we're going into our brand story before we hit our logo. And it's quick, it's pretty self-explanatory. This is where you're going to take your tone of voice and apply it to how and why your brand got to be where it is today. Rec Center was founded in July 2023 by Samantha Sugarman, yours truly, a new New Yorker looking for creative friends who absolutely loved playing games and sports. She played sports her whole life, in jack of all trades, master of none style, and wanted to explore new ways of moving physically and mentally. After joining several run clubs where she met nice accountants and kindergarten teachers, she craved these new kind of activities that also rallied creative folks around her. Obsessed with trying new things, she founded Rec Center to bring fellow Gen Z and millennial creatives together through activities sitting at the intersection of sport and culture. Today, Rec Center has hosted over 2,000 players at 200 events with over a dozen brand sponsors supporting the vision of strengthening social health of today's young creative class. You don't need to add data points like I did at the end. This is something that I would probably cut out and just leave it at sport and culture, but freak what you feel. We want to make sure that it ticks all of our tone of voice boxes of inclusivity, playfulness, approachability, and being colloquial, all of which it did. So now we can move on to our logo. If you are a graphic designer, this is going to be super fun for you. If you are not a graphic designer, this is where you can bring in a graphic designer to come in and have super duper fun. This is going to be everywhere, so it's important to do this correctly the first time. But it's important to understand what elements are part of the logo. It's comprised of 3 things. A word mark, which is your brand name written out, an icon, which is usually an illustration that's owned by your brand to communicate this look, tone, and feel, and a tagline that is this memorable expression that we just workshopped above. Here are some cute little examples that we like, and now we're going into the keys of making a great looking logo. And it's a mix of everything that we've done so far. Simplicity, creativity, memorability, versatility, make it relevant, and make it timeless. As you begin your journey in creating your logo, you will start by mood boarding. And this is collecting inspiration in the form of videos, photos, color swatches, text, anything that strikes a chord with you that feels like, oh yeah, that's totally my brand. And you can use tools like Arena, Pinterest, Google searches, find anything, and you're going to need to put it onto one slide. Keynote, PowerPoint, a Google slide, wherever. You just want to see how all of these individual elements are starting to get pieced together. That way you can riff off of it if you're the GD and going in your direction and freaking your logo out, or you can work collaboratively with a graphic friend to say, hey, this is what I'm feeling, this is the vibe, help me communicate that with a logo, and then you can work collaboratively to execute that. Also, if you are outsourcing the logo creation, expensive doesn't mean right. You don't have to spend a bunch of money on this. You just want someone who has the taste that you want to achieve within your brand's logo and work with them. A lot of times this can be a friend who wants experience or just loves you or will give you a really great deal on it. But don't sacrifice the quality of the work. If there is someone who you would absolutely love to do your work, but they are a little expensive, but it's within your range, go for it. But just know that the goal here is to create the best looking logo out the gate so you don't have to redo this years down the road. But if you have to, it's no big deal. Rebrands happen all the time, babe. So let's now move into our color palette. Your color palette helps continue the story of your brand. You are going to have at least 3 core shades. You're going to have your brand own color, you're going to have some shade of black, a shade of white, and then 2 to 3 accent colors. The best way to think about your color palette is by tapping into the colors that you naturally gravitate towards when you think about your business. It's important to keep in mind though that these colors will exist IRL and URL. Like, lime green looks awesome as a window decal in your retail store, but it doesn't look good as a hot link on your website. So keep in mind that your color palette, for the sake of this document, are your core colors that you can always come back to. They're your fail-safes. But you can bring in accent colors on a whim for a flyer or a merchandise piece or whatever. You can stray outside of these lines, but just know that for the sake of your brand identity, these are the ones that you own. So elements of a productive palette include alignment with your brand identity, have it be limited but balanced, again, anywhere between 3 to 6 colors, have it be distinctive, help yourself be different from brands in your immediate environment, have it differentiate yourself from competitors, have it be emotionally resonant, so evoke the right emotions within people who come across your brand, let it be versatile and work effectively across various mediums and backgrounds and lighting without losing impact, and then have it be visually appealing, so nothing that hurts your eyes. So for Rec Center, we have our key brand color of Rec Center Gray, we have a black hue that we call Blacktop Black, we have Cloud White, in our accent colors we have Tennis Court Blue, Card Deck Red, and Wiffle Ball Yellow. Babe, this is your brand. Make it fun. Give your colors special names that reflect the spirit of your brand. All of this can be included and it gets people just so jacked up about what you're building and what you're doing, and it just allows you to have a little bit more fun. So these colors are aligned with our brand identity. It's limited but balanced. We have 6 colors that are very distinctive for us and that allows us to claim that territory amongst our competitors. It evokes that core sports emotional spirit. It's versatile in that we have several different heat map hues, and it's nice on the eyes, making it visually appealing. When it comes to application, you can see here that what it looks like across our website. Colors from our pictures also nod to this, but it's graphic elements like the red dotted line in particular is that Card Deck Red. And then our very first product here was in our accent color of the Tennis Court Blue. But remember, not all colors look as good in person as they do online and vice versa, so make sure that you're stress testing against both before you commit yourself to any for your core palette. Okay, let's get into typography. So typography is the art and technique of arranging text to make a written word or written words visually interesting, giving it some dynamism. And your core typography treatment will include one primary typeface that's predominantly used for headers. We'll have a secondary typeface which is used for body text, and an optional accent typeface, something that's like either decorative or stylized that helps with special need opportunities like graphics or callouts or quotes or things like that. So what is typeface in fonts? A typeface is a design of a set of characters. So that's like Helvetica, Times New Roman, Comic Sans. And then a font is the stylistic variation of the typeface like lightweight, regular weight, bold weight, or italic. Font styles are defining characteristics of a font like serif, so fonts that have inflections at the end of the letters like in Times New Roman. sans serif are fonts without those strokes, script, things that often mimic handwriting, and then you have display, which are like bold, attention-grabbing fonts that are typically used for big headlines. We also have hierarchy, which refers to organizing text elements by size, weight, or style to give the readers a flow of attention. Spacing is the layout of characters broken down into 3 different things. We have kerning, which is the spacing between individual letters, leading, which is a space between the lines of a text, and tracking, which is the uniform spacing of all letters in a word or a block of text. Alignment is the arrangement of text in relation to margins or any other elements, so like left aligned, centered, etc. And we have contrast, which speaks to using size, weight, or color to differentiate text elements and create visual interest, like this Polo Ralph Lauren ad here. So taking all of these elements into consideration when you are creating your core typography treatment, this will continue to mark territory for your brand and create that unique flair that is just yours. So let's go into graphics. This is another highly creative expression of your brand's vibe. These are visual elements and design assets that complement and enhance your identity. They will also help enhance your brand's recognition by establishing that unique visual language amongst a competitive or crowded landscape. So when it comes to graphics, they can include things like icons, so custom designed symbols, illustrations that are hand-drawn or digital images that add character, patterns, which are repeating design elements that serve as great backgrounds or decorative details, textures like subtle visual effects like gradients and adding grain, shapes that are geometric or organic in form, data visualization like charts, graphs, and infographics, and then other decorative or functional types of graphic elements as well. So we have a couple of external examples here of flyers and album covers and promotional material, and then in the world of Rec Center we have our calendar flyer, an event flyer, and a special event flyer. Graphics are a very unique expression that evolve on a pretty consistent, regular basis, but I just want to keep harping on the fact that we are identifying the core elements of your brand. This is the brand identity system. So you can stray from these as you grow, but you should always have subtle nods to the things that are in this identity system because they are what you are identifying ownership of. If you are looking for great design tools to experiment with from a graphic standpoint, Adobe Illustrator is my personal go-to, but you can also use beginner-friendly Canva and Figma for more web design applications. Okay, lastly, we are going into our photography direction. This refers to the rules and standards for how your photographs are going to be shot, stylized, and edited to align with your brand's identity. This will be used across advertising, social media content, but also for internal use. That way you are staying consistent with your brand's tone, value, and personalities. This first row here of Salomon Y Project, this is a campaign collaboration where we see the product in each shot, but then when we go to the second row, we don't see any product in the Saint Laurent, Chloe, and Comme des Garçons advertisements. These are selling the brand's vibe, the vision, the world of the brand, whereas the first, the Y Project Salomon collaboration, that campaign was selling a particular product in, 2 colorways. So, your brand's photo direction is just another opportunity for you to express your unique lens on things. Get creative, you can be conceptual, you can be literal, you can push product, you can push narrative. This is your playground. World is your oyster. But for the sake of claiming territory out the gate, just know that what you're putting into this brand guideline deck is going to be the heart and best example of the type of visuals that you will be achieving as your brand. So use platforms like Arena, which is my personal favorite, but I also love using Pinterest and Googling to find visual stimulus to put into my mood boards that then lather into this photo direction for the brand. Guys, good job. You've made it to the end. I know that this was a lot, but it is such an exciting section. This is really where the brand comes to life. And it's your turn now. So you're gonna go ahead and click below to the identity workbook and get started on doing this all by yourself. We're going through all of the same things that we did together, the brand name, the tone of voice, your brand story, color palette, all the way down through to your photo direction. And for each one of these workbooks that's assigned to each one of these phases, we are the quality of the questions that we ask ourselves. So I've made sure that all of these questions are damn good, because I love you and you deserve to make the best because you are the best. So you're just going to click on the link down below. You're going to land on this page where all of the workbooks can be found, as well as the course and some of our creator tools. You're just going to go ahead and click on it, and you're going to get access to the workbook that I just showed you. You're going to get access into the Discord community where we get to chat about your experience in going through that workbook. You can share what you're building, and you get to hop on a 1-hour call with me and peers to do a peer review team meeting. That happens every Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern time, and so you'll have access to that in buying this workbook as well. So guys, I hope you had fun. I'm really excited to see what you guys are building. I will see you in the Discord community and the team chat on Friday. And next week we are going to drop phase 4 packaging, which is where we put everything in a bow with a brand strategy deck run through and a brand guidelines deck run through as well. That's inclusive of a couple of other fun elements. So I hope you have a fabulous week. I'll see you in all of those channels, and I will definitely see you here next Tuesday. Bye guys, have a good one.